Broken Age Act 2, Metaphors and Themes Analysis. Spoilers for Act 2. Broken Age is a cute point-and-click adventure game that takes place in what appears to be different worlds that soon collide. The story of Shay and Vella are actually two different viewpoints of the same problem. They are completely unaware of the other side's issues until they are forced to live in each other's worlds. Shay grows up in what he thinks to be a spaceship, with the mission of finding a new planet for his homeworld that is dying. He has manipulated and used his entire life in order to fulfill the goal of the Thrush, the overlords of the land he comes from. His heroic spirit is tricked into kidnapping young girls so that they can be used to genetically enhance the Thrush.
Why did you use the boy?
Because even our wisest bloodline ministers cannot discern the precise combination of impurities that will make us whole. But at a certain age, a young man, when raised outside of Loruna, has instincts for these things. Adventure, heroism, conquest. His youthful lusts are sacred to us.
From Shay's point of view, he is a hero, because everything he has ever learned has taught him that. The little pixels on the screen are really nothing more than helpless creatures. That is all he knows about them. Why would he ever question that? In my personal opinion, I feel like this is a metaphor for the people who are born into the upper class, or a class of people who are in power. Much like in Imperial England, where the English thought they were helping the countries that they brutally took over. They saw the countries they conquered as needing help, when in reality they were being hurt. They often called the colonized people savages, much like how the Thrush call Vella's people part of the plague. This can also be applied to how in stories, the male protagonist is often forced into a role where he must save a damsel in distress. Many times the damsel is not much more than being saved. This metaphor is quite literal, as Shay is actually saving damsels in what looks like a video game console. It is very clear what this is a metaphor for. On the other side of the looking glass is Vella. She sees that she is being sacrificed to a monster for the greater good.
This can't be right.
Villages fear the monster that seems to be inescapable. To even question the practice of sacrificing the maidens is seen as stupid. However, when Vella fights back and refuses to be taken by the monster, she shows everyone that not everything would be destroyed. They realize that they had been following a harmful practice that didn't need to be done.
So, maidens' feasts are bad then?
My daughter taught us that when she fought the monster. You see, it didn't destroy the town. It just ran away.
The younger kids also start to question the establishment, which is quite often their role in society.
We're raising money for an awareness campaign about her missing sister, and about the lies of the Maiden's Feast system.
What exactly are the lies of the Maiden's Feast system?
They told us that we had to offer maidens as a sacrifice to save our village. And we just went along with it because that's how it's always been done. Yeah, us too. But we were all lied to.
Yes, we were. Why is it only maidens who are sacrificed?
Great question. Thank you. We have a lot of questions just like that.
So you're going to get rid of the whole system?
One cupcake at a time. Each one is like a question. We go from town to town, selling cupcakes, asking questions, until it's like a giant snowball of cupcakes and questions, rolling on and getting bigger and bigger, until it's big enough to take down a whole mog itself.
Wow.
Yeah, but, you know, we gotta start small.
The closest equivalent to today's standards being questioned are gay marriage and other LGBTQI issues. Why can't gay people get married? Why can't trans people go to the bathroom? Some people are so afraid of changing the status quo that they were willing to sacrifice the happiness and safety of others. When in reality, if things changed, the village won't be destroyed by a giant tentacle monster.
Your system is gross, one-sided, and it hurts people. And you don't even need it.
A more closely related metaphor is to the historical depiction of marriage, in which Stacy does a much better job explaining than I do.
Broken Age is rife with symbolism about the dynamic between men and women, societal expectations, and gender roles, but perhaps the one that stood out to me most strongly was the metaphor for heterosexual marriage. Perhaps it's because I got married fairly recently? Don't worry, I didn't get eaten by a giant monster with red eyes, and as far as I know, I wasn't trained from birth to search out and sacrifice myself to gain a husband. Throughout history, women have been raised to believe that marriage is a privilege, an honor, or even their womanly duty, depending on the time period.
I mean, what's to fear? This is a great honor.
Right! Wait, I can't tell if you're being serious.
There's my Valoria. Oh, look at my pretty girl. I can't believe. I just can't believe.
We're very proud of you. I think that's what your mother is trying to say.
In the olden days, dowries were very popular, which was when a girl's family would actually give her future husband gifts of land, livestock, or money to compensate him for relieving them of the burden of having a daughter, who could not hold the rights to any land or carry on the family name. Women were taught starting from when they were young girls on how to be a good wife to their future husband, which in Broken Age is mirrored by the girls being taught from a young age that their entire purpose in life is to be sacrificed to this monster.
It's time to move on.
And do what? The Maiden's Feast is the only thing I prepared for all my life.
And that they should be either excited or honored to be chosen by the monster. And if they aren't chosen, they are considered a failure.
I'm still here because I didn't get picked, okay?
Look on the bright side. You didn't get eaten by a monster.
I'd rather do that than face my family right now. Who am I kidding? They've probably already jumped off a cloud in shame by now. I don't know. All I can see is my mother's disappointed face.
Women throughout history who remained unmarried were referred to as spinsters, which is a derogatory term used to demean women who remained unmarried or who failed at finding a husband, because finding a husband or being chosen by the monster in Broken Age was seen as the true marker of a woman's success. In our world, this somewhat changed between the 1960s and 1990s as more women stopped being stay-at-home moms or wives and started working and were able to see career success. But even now, there are still many who believe that a woman being successful means being married and having kids in addition to having a successful career. In 1967, 49% of mothers with children under 18 were stay-at-home moms, and in 2012, that number was 29%. Just as Vella and the other girls are raised to believe that being sacrificed is an honor or tradition, women today are still more likely than men to quit their careers and stay at home with their children, even if only while they are still young, and between 62 to 90% of women, depending on their age, will change their last name when they marry. These are traditional gender roles that still linger, and though younger generations are more likely to buck these trends, they are very prevalent. In fact, 50% of Americans think it should be legally required for a woman to take her husband's last name when they marry. Rigid gender roles aren't just harmful to women in heterosexual pairings, they also limit men from choosing their own role in society also. What if a man wants to be a stay-at-home dad, or take his wife's last name when they marry? As younger generations continue to question these long-standing traditions, families will be able to create the roles that work for them, traditional or not.
I stand by everything Stacy said. I think what she said was well supported with great evidence and well said. So Shay sees damsels in need of help, and Villa sees a monster that threatens her life, something that prevents her from living the rest of her life, which would be closely related to the old-fashioned version of marriage. But when they switch worlds, they realize that nothing was as it seems. I personally feel like this lesson in empathy can be applied to real life. Let's take an example of a young woman changing a tire by the side of the road. A young man sees her struggling with changing the tire, and he's grown up learning that it is polite to help women. From his perspective, women usually don't know how to change tires, and they are generally physically weaker. So he goes up and starts changing her tire for her. He is doing a nice thing for her and saving her from having a flat tire. But from the young woman's point of view, she was trying to change her tire on her own. She knows how to change a tire, and even if she was struggling with the task, she wanted to have the accomplishment of fixing it herself. She's growing up having some men assume she is incapable of fixing things or taking care of physically demanding tasks. It doesn't feel good to her, and she likes to feel accomplished in fixing things on her own. Some women would welcome the help, and that is okay too. But this young woman's response is to yell at the young man to go away because he didn't even ask if she needed help. he just started doing the job for her. And from the young man's point of view, she's being very mean and rude. But if they switched places for a little bit and saw the world through each other's eyes, they would realize that neither of them are being rude. It's an issue that is caused by larger forces that tell them to fall into certain roles, rather than choosing their own. This is why at the end of the game, when Shay and Vella meet each other on the bridge, they are no longer angry and confused. They were able to see the world through each other's eyes, and they understood each other. They knew that neither side ever wanted to hurt each other. And now that they've gotten rid of the old social standards, they build a new society that's better and happier.